At the outset, I would like to offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Sairam to all of you who are listening and watching, and my greetings from Prashanthi Nilayam. Last time, I came up to the point where Swami was feeling quite uncomfortable operating from the house of Subbamma. As I told you earlier, he used to come there in the morning, stay the whole day, meet with devotees, and then go to his own little hut in the evening to spend the night there. And throughout the day, lots of people would come, and Subbamma would have to, took it upon herself rather, to feed them. And Swami was finding this very, very embarrassing and quite uncomfortable. Today, I shall pick up from there. But before I get down to my narrative, there is a small correction I have to make. I said something last time which was not quite correct, as I found out later on. And it is my duty to offer an apology and also make the correction. I said that when the photograph was taken in Anjaneyulu's garden, Swami was wearing shorts. That's not correct. I went and looked up at the photograph. He was actually in dhoti. What had happened was I had seen a photo of Swami taken just before this, and there he was in his school dress with shirts and shorts. So somehow I confused the two and made the mistake. You must forgive me. After all, age can play tricks, and I hope you will charge it to that and let me off the hook. Swami wanted to give Subbamma some rest, and in order to do so, he began to take off from Puttaparthi and visit many places. What was his excuse for going to various places? Invitations. Remember, I told you people used to come to have his darshan in Puttaparthi, in spite of the difficulty of getting to Puttaparthi. And it was very, very difficult those days. Not a simple job as it is now. He would get invitations from many, many people. I will mention some of them shortly. And he began to go to places like Madras, Bangalore, Mysore, Karur in Tamil Nadu, Machilipatnam, which is now called Machilipatnam, Hyderabad, and so on. And every time he went, he would be off for a week, 10 days. So this was the way he began to give some rest to Subbamma. And whenever he went, he met people from all walks of life. There were rich people, there were middle class people, and there were poor people. He met them all without any distinction. Among some of the well-known people of those days whom he met was Mr. Thangavelu Mudaliar of Bangalore. He was apparently a rich man. He had a big house, and I have seen photographs of Swami in that house. And there was Mr. Thirumal Rao, who apparently was a very good horticulturist. And it seems when Queen Elizabeth paid her first visit to India, she had heard of Thirumal Rao and went to see his garden and his horticultural experiments. So that's a sort of small side story. There was also one Mr. Ranjot Singh, who was the Inspector General of Bangalore at that time, and who also had connection with some royal family or the other. I should not forget to mention the fact that Swami had connections with the royal family of Mysore state. There used to be a state called Mysore before it was merged with India and became a part of what is now Karnataka. Mysore city was the capital of Mysore state, and there used to be a Maharaja of Mysore, who was a very good man. He was also a good composer, and he has composed many songs on Chamundeshwari, who is the presiding deity of Mysore city, and who has a temple on top of a hill which is adjacent to Mysore city. And I myself heard Swami describe his stay in the Mysore palace. Not only that, the Maharani of Mysore came to visit Swami in Puttaparthi at a time when there was no road to this place. She had her car parked in this place, Karnataka Nagapalli, across the river. She had to walk across the river, and then a special tent was built for her to take rest here near one of the temples. And from there, she walked to the place where Swami gave darshan, but that came later. I should not forget to mention the Raja of Sandur. It's somewhere, I believe, near in the border of Maharashtra and Andhra. It was one of those princely states, and they had a very big palace. I've seen a photograph of the palace, and I've also seen a photograph of the Raja and Rani welcoming Swami as he gets down from the car with, by washing his feet in the traditional Indian fashion. So, there were all these brief getaways, and using them, Swami used to give some pause or rest or breaks to Subbamma. But at the end of it all, he had to come back to Puttaparthi, and he had to carry on his spiritual activities using Subbamma's house as a base, and as a result of which Subbamma was back to cooking from morning to evening. This Swami did not like. So what did he do? One fine day, he just packed up and left. He went across the river, and he went to a small village called Janakampalli, which still exists. We do Gram Seva there every year. And near Janakampalli, there are small hillocks. And Swami began to live in a cave amongst those hillocks. There is one Mr. Krishna Maharaju, who is familiarly known as Mr. Kishtappa. He is still around. He still comes for darshan every day. Many years ago, we invited Mr. Kishtappa to our studios and recorded an extended interview with him. We have to mine all that, and hopefully we will do it one of these days and let you hear what he said. But when the recording was made, I remember Kishtappa describing how he used to give Swami company in the cave. What about food? Subbamma. She knew Swami was staying in Janakampalli in a cave, and every day she would cook food and take it to Swami. How do I know? Because Swami himself has described this in many of his discourses. And he made it a point to stress that Subbamma would not come with just one item or two items. She would come with a variety of items. And Swami would say, she did not impose her choices on me. She made a variety so that I could choose what I want. That was her love for Swami. And as far as I am concerned, I am reminded of the way Lakshmi Bai used to serve Shirdi Baba when, after coming to Shirdi, he took off for a while and began to live alone somewhere inside the forest. So, shades of that avatar seen in this avatar also. Finally, one day Subbamma told Swami. Subbamma said, Swami, what is this? Why do you have to live in this cave? There are scorpions here, there are snakes here, there is no light, there is nothing. Why do you have to suffer like this? Swami was silent. And Subbamma said, I know what you are thinking. Okay, I will solve your problem. We have a small plot of land outside the village on the way to the river. There is a hut there. If you agree, I will make that hut available to you. You can just go and stay there. You don't have to come to my house and be there. You can stay there, give darshan, whatever it is. Swami accepted the idea, moved back to Puttaparthi, and started living in the hut. Now, where was this hut? This hut was located in a plot where later on was built what we call the Pathamandiram, and where now exists the Pedda Venkamaraju Kalyana Mandapam. Now, if you get out of the ashram, there is a gopuram there. And there's a road leading away from the gopuram going north. If you walk down that road today, you will see shops, banks, bakeries, all sorts of things on either side. In the 40s, there was nothing. It was all fields or rock or barren land. And about 3/4 of a kilometer or so away from the Gopuram, which also did not exist, was Subamma's land. And there was the hut. The village was to the west of that hut and quite some distance away. Remember, again, I'm talking of 1940 when Puttaparthi was very small and the population was also equally small. So Swami began living in the hut there. And then one fine day, what happened was, some miscreants came and set fire to the hut. The hut began to burn. They wanted to kill Swami. But of course, those things don't happen like that to the avatar. What happened was there was rain immediately. And the story goes that the rain fell only on the hut and not on the rest of Puttaparthi. Whatever it is, the rains saved the hut, saved Swami. And people became very worried. Leaving that aside, you might wonder, how on earth can people set fire to a hut where Swami is staying? Well, many people did not believe in Swami's divinity. Well, many people don't believe in his divinity even to this day. But it started way back, right in the village where he was living. There were disbelievers. And they did not stop with not believing in him. They were angry that people were coming from so many places and worshipping him. So in a sense, you may say it was jealousy. And this jealousy, local jealousy if I might call it, lasted for many, many years, almost to the end of the 60s. Many devotees have recalled this. Mrs. Vijay Kumari, who has written a wonderful account of Swami's days in the Pathamandiram, in her famous book Anyada Sharanam Nasti, describes some of this. I have heard a member of the Venkatagiri family describing to me how when his family would take Swami in a palanquin in procession around the village, that was the way they used to honor him with, Nadaswaram band, musicians and all that. The people in the village, not all, some would come and jeer at Swami. And there is an old devotee who is still alive. His name is Chidambaram Krishnan. We have done an extensive series of recordings. He spoke in Tamil. The English translation was published long time ago in Heart to Heart. He has described how people disliked Swami in the 60s, early 60s. So you see, there was always this hostility. Now coming back to the fire incident, Subamma became very scared. She felt that Swami must have a proper place to live in. And just around that time, her husband died. Her husband, Karnam Lakshmi Narayana. He left behind two wives. Subamma was the first wife and Kamalama was the second wife. And there was no children. There were no children at that time. There was, of course, an adopted son. But he was small. And the property, whatever the Karnam had, went to Subamma and Kamalama. And they decided to give away this land, which belonged to the Karnam, in permanent donation to Swami. They could give the land. What about a place for Swami to live? Subamma talked to people and they raised a collection and it was decided to build some kind of a structure there where Swami could live. So that is how the Patha Mandiram, as we now call it, came into existence. And it consisted of just a tin shed which later on grew into a cluster of tin sheds. the biggest of them, which came last, being the Bhajan Hall. The land deed through which the land was transferred said the land was being transferred to Baba Madam. Madam means monastery. So that is why, and the monastery had a manager, and the property was transferred to the manager of the Baba Madam. The Pathamandiram used to be, today we call it Pathamandiram, but in those days it was called by many names, one of which was Bhajan Mandiram. And it was formally inaugurated on the 14th of December 1945. 14th of December 1945. In fact, there are group photographs taken on that day. Swami posing with group 1, group 2, group 3 and so on and so forth. And the Pathe Mandiram was the scene of great activity and also revelation of the immense divine nature of Swami. Swami stayed there only for 5 years. After that time, he moved away and came to the mandir, which was built here. He occupied that mandir on 23rd November 1950. 1950. So he stayed in Pathamandiram for roughly only 5 years. And this mandiram, when it was built, was called the New Mandir. Swami called it Prashanti Nilayam. And that was the only building here. I'll describe later about this building and all that. But for the moment, I would like to say that for 5 years, he stayed in the tin shed. Most devotees, especially those who came to Swami during the 40s, would be unanimous in declaring the Pathamandiram days as the best in the life of Swami. They have very good reasons for saying that, because it was during this period that Swami performed unbelievable miracles of a type that he stopped performing the moment he came to Prashanti Nilayam. Oh yes, he did a few, but the miracles suddenly dropped because he had more important work to do. He had incarnated for that, and that's what he started doing. Because people were very unhappy with it, but God does not follow man's agenda, he has his own agenda, and we have to respect that. Now, volumes have been written about these miracles, and I am sure some of you would have devoured all those volumes. Obviously, I cannot go through a description of all those miracles for the simple reason not all of them have been documented. Some have been described. I've heard those descriptions, and the people who described them have passed on. So that's the end of the story. But powerful accounts are available. They have been documented. And I am now going to give you some glimpses of the extraordinary way in which Swami manifested divinity by simply reading out some accounts. Now, before I get to the miracles, there are a few things I should mention. The day would begin in the morning in Pathamandiram with Suprabhadam or whatever it is, and life would go on centered around the mandiram, activities in the mandiram, till the evening. And the high point of the daily routine came in the evening, when the entire group would walk from the mandiram to the Chitravati river to sit on the sand and spend time there. It would be a walk of about 1 kilometer or so. There is one thing I should mention at this point. When devotees came to see Swami in those days, they were not many, and they would all stay with Swami. Many people would stay for 3-4 days, some would stay for a week, and some would stay even for a month, depending on how much time they were able to spare. And the people who went to the river in the evening were these people. As the sun went down in the western sky, the group 20, 25, 30 or so would set forth. They would go carrying lots of things. Some would carry musical instruments. One person would carry a big carpet that would be spread on the sand, odd vessels, a few lanterns, of course, for them to come back because it would be dark. And there would be the careful person who would take materials needed for offering the arati. As the group made its way towards the river, there would be tremendous excitement because any moment Swami might start his play. Each day was different, and there were innumerable variations to the theme. Now, here are a few samples, and I am going to read them out so that you have an authentic account as recorded by a particular author. And the first few incidents that I am going to read out are all due to Mrs. Vijay Kumari, and they have been taken from her book Anyada Sharanam Nasti. Let me start with the first episode. As soon as Swami set out like the moon surrounded by the stars, we would follow him and walk behind him like his shadow. Some would grasp his robe, some would hold his hand, while others kept up a conversation. As we walked, Swami would suddenly disappear. We would then go in various directions in search of him, looking in every tree, behind every bush and shrub, and even in snake pits. Becoming tired and after prolonged searching, we would collapse and call out, "Swami!" He would then suddenly jump out of the bush next to us, crying, "Boo!" What a wonder! How was this possible? Had we not searched for him thoroughly everywhere, looking under every stem and leaf? While we stared at him wonderstruck, he would hurry us, saying, come on, move, let's get going," and run away. Sometimes he would be on the topmost branch of the tallest tree, calling out to us. Even as we were wondering how on earth he managed to get up there, we would find him standing by our side laughing loudly. Randomly, he would pluck leaves from a tamarind tree or some other tree and place them in our hands. To our utter amazement, these leaves would be transformed into goa or sugar candy. Or else, he would pick up a stone from the road and throw it into the air. It would come down as sugar candy. He could hardly keep quiet even for a minute. We used to feel so zestful in his presence. Okay, there is this opening salvo or sample. I am next going to describe Leelas performed in what is known as the near a tree up on a hill very close to the river. And this tree was called the Kalpavriksha tree. The term Kalpavriksha occurs in Indian mythology, and its literal translation is wish-fulfilling tree. I told you about a hillock adjoining the river. On that was a tamarind tree, and all the Leelas that I am going to describe shortly occurred around this tree, and that tree came to be known as the Kalpavriksha tree, and it is known that way even to this day. They have become very legendary. A few accounts now of Leelas associated with the Kalpavriksha and surrounding the Kalpavriksha. Once again, I am going to read out the narrative recorded by Mrs. Vijay Kumari. There was a huge boulder under the Kalpavriksha. About 200 people could comfortably sit on that rock. Watching Bhagwan, I would recall the son of Yashodabala, Lord Madhava, who in days gone by balanced the huge Govardhana mountain on the tip of his little finger to save the lives of cows and cowherds, jumping up to pluck a handful of leaves from the tamarind tree, Sai would give a leaf to each of us and ask us to keep our palm closed. When we opened them at his command, we would find all kinds of things: sugar candy in one hand, rosary in another hand, peppermint in the third hand, and so on. He would then ask us to close the palm again, and when we opened them as commanded by him, we would find only tamarind leaves. We would think, what a pity, I should have eaten that candy right then. We would then gaze at him wonderstruck, thinking to ourselves, how amazing! How could such a variety of things materialize simultaneously? He would then clap his hands to arouse us from our stupefied state. Because this tree gave the devotees whatever they wished for, it came to be known as Kalpavriksha. I should pause to mention that lately that tree decayed into a very pitiable state because termites began to attack it. Actually, what has happened is that over the years, that rock and that tree became some sort of a very popular tourist spots. And so, people began visiting it in large numbers and leave all sorts of food items around. So insects and many other things started coming for the food. And having come close to the tree, they began to attack the tree also. And the tree was almost about to die. Many people who saw this from the ashram were very upset about it. And then they went and talked to higher authorities. And although the tree is not in ashram property, because it is connected with the early life of Bhagwan, they were able to persuade people in the village and village authorities to take suitable action to protect the tree from termites. And now I believe it is somewhat safe, at least for the moment. That is a small side news. Let me resume the narration of the Leelas. From the Kalpavriksha's tree, the group would move to the sands of the river. They would spread a carpet there, they would all sit. You might have even seen some photographs of Swami sitting with a handful of devotees. And it was on the sands that the Leelas performed by Swami reached their crescendo. And you will now hear one example of such a Leela. Coming down from this rock, we would assemble on the Chitravati sands at a suitable spot selected by the devotees. After singing for some time and listening to Swami's discourse on the pranks of Krishna, we would shout that we were hungry and pester him to give us something to eat. By the way, I should mention that this shouting used to be done by children, and the author who is writing was a little girl herself at that time. It is not the elders who would be shouting. Even as he moved his hand in the heap of piled up sands, we would be able to predict what he would be pulling out. See, Swami used to make a heap of sand, put his hand inside and pull out things from that. We could recognize the smell of Mysore pak, which is a type of sweet. Ghee would drip from the Mysore pak. Imagine pulling out something from the sand with no sand particles. Hot Mysore pak with ghee dripping. He would then place the pieces on a tray and serve us all. He would pull out one Mysore pak after another, like in a bakery, put it on a tray and serve. He would serve with his own hands. How am I to describe that taste? After eating the sweet, we would say, Swami, we are satiated with the sweet. Now give us savories. Our beloved Swami, the embodiment of compassion, would then pull out vadas. You know vadas, they sell it around here. It's a savory dish out of the sand. Its taste cannot be described even by Lord Brahma. As he kept pulling vadas out of the sand, they were hot and dripping with ghee. But surprisingly, not a speck of sand clung to them. How is that possible? Only questions and no answer. He would also extract from the sand pile rosaries, idols, pendants, and books and hand them over to those destined to receive them. The articles that Swami created from the sand were unprecedented wonders, things that could not be procured anywhere. Nothing can stand comparison with those. The idols were made of panchaloka, a combination of 5 alloys, or sandalwood, or ivory, or teak, or silver. He would materialize out of the sand idols of Narayana, Radha, Krishna, Shirdi Sai, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, Nataraja, etc. The rosaries materialized out of the sand would be made of pearl, coral, or crystal beads. He gave my mother a statue of Vinayaka that he created out of the sand. We could not say whether it was made of clay or stone. Not too black. It had a reddish tinge. Wonder of wonders, the idol did not have a full-length trunk. When he asked him why he gave mother an idol like that, when we asked him why he gave mother an idol like that, he said, "Do abhishekam with milk every day. The trunk will then grow to the normal size." So the recipient had to grow the trunk with abhishekam. And exactly as he forecast, the trunk did grow. We simply did not and could not estimate the value of the gifts he gave. Now, this sort of materialization of eatables continued little later, but then dropped off very sharply. I remember having that experience of receiving an eatable from him once, or twice I should say. Once it was in the interview room. There were a few of us, and Swami was talking to us. Suddenly he waved his hand like that, and in his hand was bundi. I mean, that was the first time I'd seen that, and I was knocked out. So, laddu in powdered form. It was rich in ghee, and then he gave it all to us. His hand was dry. He didn't even have to wipe it clean. And on another occasion, this happened many years later, long after I had stopped being Vice Chancellor. It was March or something like that, and Swami was in the outer veranda in Sai Kulon's hall. It was very big. There was a big crowd. And a small cooler had been placed near him, and some of the boys were sitting around him. And Swami was talking about this and that. And suddenly he moved his hand like this, and out came a fig this size. Fig, huh? And then he passed it around, and when it came to me, I found it was ice cold, as though it had been just taken out of the deep freeze. I was taken away. Hot summer, and here comes a fig, chilled. Then we gave it back to Swami. He broke it into a few pieces and gave us all one piece. And I got a piece too. And I ate that piece, fresh, beautiful sweet fig. I enjoyed it, but I am sure 10,000 people there were awfully jealous of me. Look at this guy. What does he deserve? How does he deserve that? But that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, to get on with the story of the Pathamandiram, it was not always a case of pulling out objects and eatables out of the sand pile. There were terrifying moments too, and I will now give a description of one such terrifying moment. Once while we were resting on Chitravati sands, this is Mrs. Vijay Kumari again, Swami said, "Look, Nagasai is coming." Thinking he was referring to a person, we turned to see who it was, but saw no one. Swami then said, "Look in that direction." We then saw a huge snake coming towards us. This was no ordinary snake. It looked like Adisesha, the serpent on whom Lord Vishnu reclines. It was immense in size, and we could not see its tail. As it came forward, slithering and twisting sinuously as if it was dancing, it looked charming. As it advanced a little more, its head was suddenly transformed into the strikingly beautiful countenance of our Lord Sai. We had never heard of a miracle like that. It was as if Swami was proclaiming that he was everywhere and in everything. Still, a snake is a snake, and we began to tremble in fear as it came near us. Looking at Swami, we implored Swami, "No, Swami, no. Please ask it to go away." Swami looked gently at the snake and said, "Go now, Nagasai," and it disappeared. That memorable night is etched in our minds. On a few occasions, Swami went far beyond materialization in order to give a brief glimpse into the immensity of his cosmic powers. I will now read out a narrative of one such incident. One day, when we were all walking towards the Chitravati, Swami suddenly disappeared. Even as we were searching for him, we heard the sound of a clap. Looking up, we saw Swami calling us. "I am on top of the hill." It was 6 in the evening. The sun had softened its beams and was sinking towards the west. The sky was filled with black clouds, as if it was wrapped in a dark blanket. Swami said, "Look at me. I shall show you the sun." Even as we were wondering how the sun that had already set would come back, we saw new rays rising behind Swami's head. The whole sky was now filled with blue clouds, and the rays turned red. And redder they became till they looked fiery. They exuded so much heat that it made us all sweat profusely. These rays were as hot as those from a scorching midday sun. Unable to bear the heat, we loudly appealed, "Swami, it's too hot." The heat then subsided. "Oh my God," we exclaimed, and were settling down, and Swami's voice again came to us from the top of the hill. "I shall now show you the moon," Swami said. We saw behind Swami's head the half unfolded honey-colored rays of the moon. Soon they turned white and became whiter and whiter still. We now began to shiver in the cold. Our bodies became stiff, and our teeth began to chatter. "Swami, it's very cold out here." And as we were imploring him, the cold began to slowly subside. We now began to wonder what miracle he would show next. When he announced, "I shall now show you the third eye. Watch attentively." Third eye? How does it work? We wondered. Swami's body was not visible, but his head appeared gigantic, as if stretched across the entire sky. Bewildered and stupefied, we stared at the sky. An orifice appeared on the forehead of Swami, between his two eyebrows, somewhere here. And fiery sparks issued from that opening. We were dazzled by the brilliance of those sparks. We were also scared. More than being afraid about ourselves, we were worried about what might happen to Swami. The sparks continued to gush out, and meanwhile, many had fallen down unconscious, and we did not know why these people had fainted. That made us even more scared. Feeling lost and not knowing what to do, we began to cry. Suddenly, Swami was in our midst, and he asked, "What happened?" patting us gently on the shoulder. "Why are you crying? Why have all these people fainted?" Not knowing what answers to give, we just hugged him and continued to weep. As a few of those who had fainted recovered and got up, we muttered a little strength and asked him, "Swami, are you all right?" And so on. Even as we asked all these questions, we patted his face to assure ourselves that he was really with us. Swami laughed heartily and assured us that he was indeed all right. With a wave of his hand, he materialized Vibhuti and applied it on our foreheads. One by one, those who had fainted began to revive. It was a strange experience. We felt as if we were floating on air. It was a peculiar state of mind. We all went back to the mandir and sat down for bhajans. But we could not sing properly because we all felt dizzy. We were in that state that whole evening. Next day, when we found ourselves to be in the same state, we asked Swami about it. With a smile, he said, You have been praying for a glimpse of this third eye during many past lives. In response to your prayers, I gave you a darshan of it today. However, I did not show you even a thousandth part of its brilliance. You could not have withstood that. You could not even bear to see what you saw. How then could you have seen the full spectacle? Your present state is the result of that spectacle. Again he created vibhuti and smeared it on each of our forehead. We gained a semblance of normalcy thereafter. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to interrupt briefly at this point to do a short commercial, if I may. More seriously, our studio has produced a beautiful documentary as a part of covering Swami's entire life. This is part one of Swami's life, and this is called The Advent. It is available as a Sai Blossom product, and in it you can see some of these miracles portrayed, displayed with animation. Not only the third eye, but another miracle that I am going to describe shortly. That was a very spectacular one. It did not happen on Chitravati sands. It happened while everybody was in the Pathamandiram. What is that miracle? Let me read out for you. One day after bhajan, this was in the mandir, we were all sitting around Swami, stringing flowers into garlands. In this work, no lady could match his skill and speed. Is there any art that Swami is not proficient in? The garlands he made were thick and beautiful. Suddenly he got up and said, "Come on, come on. Mother Ganga is coming to visit us." He then went outside and stood near the huge main gate. After opening the gate, he stood in the center with open arms and told us, "All of you stand back. None of you should go even 1 inch beyond these outstretched hands of mine." That is to say, this was the red line they should not cross. And then he said, "Look there, Ganga is rushing forth." We saw the river was approaching us with great ferocity, its waves fuming and frothing and rising high in the sky with a roaring noise. The river came quite near us, and we children felt greatly scared. We thought, "My God, this river may swallow us." The river came very near to Swami and was touching the hem of his robe. Except the roaring water, we could not see any of the trees and shrubs that were visible till then. Sai extended his hand forward and touched the river. The stretch of the water beneath his hand immediately became quiet and serene, but the waters beyond were still frighteningly turbulent. Swami glanced at us and said, "Go inside and bring flowers, coconut, turmeric powder and kumkum." We did as instructed and then offered the flowers, turmeric powder and kumkum to the river goddess. We were quite nervous as we did so. Thereafter, Swami broke the coconuts and offered them to Mother Ganga. Placing his palm on the surface of the river, he said, "We are very happy that you came to visit us. Ganga, now please go back." As he spoke those words, he affectionately patted the waves with both his hands. As if thrilled by his gentle touch, the fury of the waters subsided and the river receded completely. We rubbed our eyes and gazed in disbelief in all four directions. Not a drop of water could be seen anywhere. There was absolutely no trace of water anywhere on the ground. And Swami's robe was also very dry. Surprise. It was a glorious surprise, the river going back as suddenly as it had come. We were totally baffled. Swami continued to stand still, and we were worried that the river might come back. The director of these marvelous miracles laughed aloud and pointed in the direction of his feet. We saw there a garland of jasmine flowers wrapped around his cute little feet. We picked up the garland, smelt it, and then distributed the flowers to everyone. Each jasmine bud was almost the size of a rose, and it was softer to the touch than cotton. Its sweet fragrance spread in all directions. Most reverentially, we placed the flowers on our closed eyes and then wore them in our head. By the way, this Ganga Mata episode can also be seen in the documentary Advent. Today, it is difficult to believe that such miracles happen, but they did. Back then, devotees would come to Puttaparthi and stay with Swami. I mentioned that to you earlier. That meant they would eat with Swami and sleep in the same tin shed. I heard it said that people would place their beds near Swami's bed at 4 o'clock in the evening itself so that they could sleep near Swami. There was a big, it's like, booking your seat in an open bus or railway compartment. They told you many of these guests would stay for even 1 month at a time. People talk a lot about the miracles Swami performed those days. Yes, he did perform miracles. But few noticed that he also did two other things. One of them was he gave a lot of discourses regularly. And in all those discourses, he stressed the Atmic nature of the human being. Swami, of course, knew that most people were not interested in the Atma in the least bit. But nevertheless, he did it regularly as a sort of duty, shall I say. We must never forget that Swami came down to be amongst us, not to perform miracles, but to remind us that we ourselves are the sparks of the divine. Whether listeners are bothered or not, Swami always did this. I remember once when Swami went to East Godavari, Rajmandri side, he gave a lot of discourses, and most of the time the audience consisted of farmers. And he spoke about the Atma. And Kasturi, who was going with him, later on asked Swami, Swami, what is this? These are poor villagers. They don't know anything about the Atma. Why you are talking about the Atma? What is the use, Swami? Swami looked at Kasturi and said, Kasturi, you are looking at these fellows present in front of you as farmers. I am looking at them 10 births from now. This seed I have planted in their mind will flower 10 generations later, 10 births later. I look into the future, the distant future. You are looking at the shallow present. You don't understand these things, Kasturi. You don't. That is the way Swami operated. The second thing that Swami did was to shower love non-stop. In fact, that was his nature and he did it right from beginning to end. The funny thing is, people who came to Pathamandiram hardly paid attention to the love he was showering. They were mostly focused on the trinkets he would distribute after the Chitravati visits and so on. I am not making this up. I have heard this from a lady who now lives in the US and who used to come to Pathamandiram as a little girl along with her mother back in the 40s. She said, we remembered Swami's love only when it was time to leave. And when it was time to leave, suddenly we remembered how much love he showered on us. And we would all sit and cry because we would be missing his love. That's what she said. Okay. One more thing that Swami did was to have regular bhajans in the Pathamandiram. You have heard me make a few mention about bhajans. Now, one of those who came to Swami in those days was a little girl called Karnamba. She's still alive. She's a great grandmother now, known as Karnamba Ramamurti, I believe. And we have recorded interviews with her. And I'm now going to read out a small quote from her interview, which she recorded with us. It is all about bhajans. The bhajans would be sung inside the tin shed, but because it was hot in summer, many people would come out and sit under the trees outside because it was cooler there. Swami would come out and personally go to the people sitting under the tree and ask them to go inside. Why did he do that? We will hear from Karunamba, because he said the same thing to her. This is what that lady said. One day, Swami said to me most gently, "My dear, you do not understand why I am compelling you to be inside. I am sitting inside there in the bhajan, and if you are there and I look at you just once during the bhajan, all your past karma or sins would be burnt away. Who else can do that for you? If you sit here under the tree and I am there in the hall, how can I see you? Now do you understand why I am asking you all to be inside?" So you see, those were, in a sense, the glorious days. Only a few had the blessing and the privilege of coming to Swami back then. But we should not feel sad. Oh, I was not there. On the other hand, we should feel happy that we at least saw Swami sometime during our life. How many people in the future can say that? I remember Mr. Bob Bazzani, who now lives in Tustin, California. He used to come here often. He looks after the book center there in California, which was started by Walter Cowan, to whom I shall make a reference later. Bob Bazzani has told me many times, you know something? We all take Swami so much for granted. We don't realize that in the years to come, people would be wondering and asking us, you mean to say you really saw Sai Baba? Are you sure you talked to him? You gave a letter to him and he took it, read it and talked to you? Did you ever touch him? They would ask you questions like that in wonder, because they would not believe that such a one walked on earth. You and I have had the blessing of seeing him, being near him, experiencing many things. And we have a duty to the future. That also you would stress. About this duty, I would have plenty to say later on, and I'm sure the listenership will drop. But nevertheless, just as Swami came to perform a duty, I also have a duty, but not now, immediately, so don't be scared. For now, I would like to end here for the day and take your leave, leaving the rest of the story of the Pathamandiram to the next episode. I have a small announcement to make, somewhat regretfully, and that announcement is that the next episode will be slightly delayed. You see, during this weekend, there are meetings that are being held in Bangalore, and we have all been asked to come and attend those meetings. And as Mahasamadhi is approaching, the first anniversary of the Mahasamadhi is approaching, there are many, many activities going on here, and I also have many things that I have to do and be ready for. So I'm going to be heavily stressed. You may not believe it. Every time I come for a recording, I have to prepare quite a lot. I just don't come and talk off the cuff. In spite of that, I make a few mistakes here and there. Preparation does take time. And life tends to be hectic around here. In spite of the fact, all of us here work 24/7. So kindly bear with us now and then. If we take a little break imposed on us by the circumstances beyond us. I thank you all for listening and also for writing. It's very nice to hear from you. God bless you all, and Jai Sai Ram. And as always, as my last act, I offer this talk in respectful homage and with much humility to our Lord Sai, to our most beloved Bhagwan, who has been with us and who will always be with us, and whom we can ever always seek in our hearts. Thank you. God bless. Jai Sai Ram.